for our invocation.
Thank you. Before I thank the Lord, I want to thank the PRCA for several decades of privilege to lift up the name of Jesus as we start this great event. Congratulations to our class of 2018. And let's bow together, remove cover, and honor our Creator. And Heavenly Father, we praise you for the privilege we have to live in the greatest nation on earth. And part of that for us is our Western heritage, and nobody's preserved it and promoted it better than our PRCA and our Hall of Fame, and we're grateful for them and pray your blessings. But Lord, we realize we're the greatest nation on earth because of you. It's because in God we trust. Our founders based this nation on, and we thank you. And we're the greatest because of our military and the strength we have in our law enforcement and military. We pray you'd bless them and protect them and their families around the world and keep us supportive of them in Jesus' name. Amen.
Please stand for our national anthem sung by Jeffrey Barron of Chicago, Illinois.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming in the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the director of the ProRodeo Hall of Fame, Kent Sturman.
Welcome to the 2018 ProRodeo Hall of Fame induction ceremony. It's a pleasure to have you all with us today in this beautiful August morning here in colorful Colorado. We will enshrine this remarkable class that will take their place in the history books of the sport of professional rodeo this morning. This year's class is filled with athletes who earned multiple world championships, people who contributed to the success of the PRCA, a committee that is one of the best in the business, and an equine athlete that stands out as one of the most talented. These are the best that professional rodeo has to offer. At this time, I would like to introduce the CEO of the PRCA and president of the ProRodeo Hall of Fame for his first induction ceremony, Mr. George Taylor.
Good morning, everybody. What an amazing day for an amazing group of people. We are so proud that we can host this event for everybody, and we're excited to kind of carry on the tradition and enshrine it as we go forward. I want to start by just thanking and making some special introductions of people that really help us get to where we want to go. And I'll start with the Hall of Fame trustees group. If you would stand just briefly, that would be great. Thank you so much for everything you do. And then our PRCA board members. I think we have one or two here. They would stand as well. Thank you. We have Hal Burns and Keith Martin here. Thank you for what you do. And then very importantly is all our sponsors of both the PRCA and the Hall of Fame. If we just ask that you would stand briefly so we could thank you as well. Well, one of the first things we did when we got together in January after my arrival was sit down with our leadership team to talk about what we wanted the PRCA to be going forward. And that vision is not very complicated, quite frankly, and you won't be surprised when I tell you what it is. But it's about having the best cowboys and the best rodeos together, driving us toward the best fan experience while positively impacting the communities and embracing the spirit of the West. We're all about the best cowboys and the best rodeos, and nobody will ever take that from us if we all work together to get it done. Our mission in the PRCA really is about unifying a group of incredibly diverse interests and movements between cowboys, committees, stock contractors, and a whole variety of people. And in this world today, it doesn't take long to look at Twitter or something like that to find out how divided we sometimes are as a country. We're too small of a organization and a sport to become too divided. And we want to focus on what we all can do together to powerfully move this sport forward. And one of my favorite quotes comes from a small lady from Calcutta, Mother Teresa. And she says, "I can do things you can't do. You can do things that I can't do. Together, we can do great things." And rodeo has done great things. But I believe we've just begun to scratch the surface. And I hope that everybody here can gather together, that we can set aside differences and focus on what we can get done together as we move forward. I'm so hopeful about what we can get done if we are truly focused on that vision about best cowboys and best rodeos. As you know, the list of the accomplishments of the people that we have here are just astonishing. I want the inductees today to know that we in the entire rodeo community are very, very proud of your accomplishments. People have talked to me since we came to this inductee class and talked about how special it is and how unique it is. And it's my first one, so I really don't know how unique and special it is, but I personally know the names of these people, and I wasn't in rodeo for many years. So again, I congratulate you for what you've done for the sport and look forward as we move forward together. Today, we honor the very best rodeo has had to offer in the past, and we ensure that your feats will always be remembered. We're so proud to have our inductees and their families here who made countless sacrifices going forward. I thank you all for remaining a part of the PRCA family and inspiring the next generation. We can often be tempted to think that our success or the success began with our arrival, but that's not true. The English scientist Sir Isaac Newton said, "If I've seen farther, it's by standing on the shoulders of giants." Those of you who are inducted today stood on the shoulders of those that went before you. I want you to know that there will be people standing on your shoulders in the days and years to come. You are giants. Thank you for your contributions.
One year ago, we embarked on a partnership and relationship with the Women's Professional Rodeo Association to induct the first barrel racers and barrel horses into the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame. It was way long overdue. And this year we will induct our second class from WPRA. So with us this morning is the president of the Women's Professional Rodeo Association, Doreen Wintermute.
George, you said it all. I just want to thank the PRCA. This event is amazing. This day is beautiful. It just gives chills through my spine. I want to congratulate all the inductees here, and just to be so grateful and honored to be a part of this it's a dream come true, and I just want to say thank you all and congratulations to all the inductees.
I want to welcome all of our state rodeo queens for being with us this weekend and playing hostess to our guests and our inductees. We certainly appreciate the job you do in public relations and marketing and promotion throughout your year. And good luck to all of you as you travel to Las Vegas later this year to compete for Miss Rodeo America. On stage, thank you. On stage with us and helping us with the presentations this morning is the 2018 Miss Rodeo America, Carrie Sheffield of Florida. Welcome, Carrie, to Colorado Springs and the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame, and thank you for being with us. I'd like to introduce our co-MCs for this morning's event. Pam Minick is one of the most recognized women in the equine world. She has been inducted into both the National Cowgirl Hall of Fame and the National Cowboy Hall of Fame. A former Miss Rodeo America and world champion WPRA breakaway roper, she's hosted more than 1,000 television shows on ESPN, TNN, NBC, and CBS as the sideline reporter for PRCA Pro Rodeo, and is now the host of The American Rancher and Gentle Giants on RFD TV. Minick served as vice president of the Women's Pro Rodeo Association for more than a decade. She serves on the board of various nonprofit organizations around North Texas and was named Great Woman of Texas in 2006. Her and her husband live on a small ranch in Argyle, Texas. Reed Flake grew up working cattle and horses on his family's ranch and later went to Ricks College, where he received a degree in ranch management. Reed has been announcing rodeos for over 30 years. He's announced events like the National High School Finals Rodeo, the National Junior High Finals Rodeo, the Turquoise Circuit Finals, USTRC Finals, and the George Strait Team Roping and the Bob Feist Team Roping. Along with his announcing duties, Reed works with his uncle Keith Flake, producing videos for Rodeo Video and leasing cattle for team ropings and other events. His latest adventure is Rodeo Video YouTube channel, which highlights what he does on a daily basis, sharing the cowboy way of life with our world. Reed and his wife Amy reside in Snowflake, Arizona, where they have lived for most of their 36-year marriage. They have 3 children, all of which are married, and 7 grandchildren. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Pam Minick and Reed Flake.
Thank you. We are so honored to be here, and we're going to have a good time today. You know, I was here in 1979 when this museum first opened. I was only 3 years old at the time, so I barely remember that experience.
I was going to say she was just a baby in 1979, but it's exciting to be here with you, Pam. We're going to have a good time indeed today.
And it is an amazing place, and I want to make sure that each of you, as you leave here, if you haven't had a chance to go inside, George Taylor talked about the giants on whose shoulders that we all stand. And those giants, many of them are represented here in this museum. You'll see saddles from the Boston Garden and personal mementos of the people that came before us. And for those of you that are watching on the Wrangler Network, we invite you as well to Colorado Springs to enjoy the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame.
You know, the exciting thing to me, Pam, is that out of the thousands and thousands of contestants that compete every year in the PRCA, we have 10 of the very best here today that we are going to induct. Whether they be barrel racers, whether they be cowboys, committees, even an equine athlete here with us, it's going to be an exciting day today as we induct all of these people in.
And it's not only about what they've done inside the arena, but their accomplishments outside the arena as well, and what they've brought to the sport of rodeo. And it's special for us because most of these honorees are our personal friends. I know probably no one has announced Speed and Rich more than you have.
Well, and not only personal friends like Speed and Rich, but your husband
That's
being
right.
inducted. That's got to be a
And
special treat
and
for
my
you.
neighbor, Walt Garrison.
Walt Garrison, your neighbor, yes.
And we've both had a chance to laugh with Leon Coffey and smile with Deb Greenough.
We've done it all with every one of these guys.
And I was
and
honored
gals.
to serve, as they said, the WPRA, so we're happy with our barrel racers as well. But they didn't come here to hear us speak, so let's get the show on the road.
What do you say we do it? Let's get started this morning. Everybody ready for a good time? What do you say you put your hands together? Let's welcome our inductees one more time today. You know, ladies and gentlemen, I have the opportunity at home to serve on several different rodeo committees, and I know how hard it can be to be on a rodeo committee, to make sure that everything is just right when your day or your week or your hours arrive when it's time to produce your rodeo. And it takes an entire community, a village, if you will, working together to put together a rodeo. And today, we want to welcome, inducted this year in the rodeo committee category, the Black Hills Rodeo in Belle Fourche, South Dakota. We want you to take a look right now at the monitors.
The Black Hills Roundup started when 15,000 people gathered in a field near Belle Fourche, South Dakota to raise money for World War I in 1918. At the time, the population of Belle Fourche was just about 1,400 people. The next year marked the first time the rodeo took place. The Black Hills Roundup is one of the oldest continuously held outdoor rodeos in the country. The rodeo has come a long way since its beginnings as a ranch-style rodeo to the four-performance PRCA event with top-ranked cowboys and cowgirls today. The historic rodeo, which is 100% volunteer-run, also boasts that President Calvin Coolidge attended in 1927. And the Black Hills Roundup is still one place where rodeo fans are treated to a live cowboy band. Large crowds continue to support the rodeo, with an estimated 10 to 15,000 attending a parade during rodeo week in a town of about 6,000. This is a tip of the hat to the board and committee that works tirelessly every year. The Black Hills Roundup is now in the Rodeo Cowboy Hall of Fame.
Thank you for that, ladies and gentlemen. Accepting on behalf of the Black Hills Roundup is Clay Crago, chairman of the Rodeo Committee, as we invite Clay to the podium at this time.
I guess I can sit down too.
Wow. Thank you, guys. It's quite an honor. Black Hills Roundup coming up on 100 years old next year to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. And first of all, I want to thank PRCA and the Kent and the staff here for putting this event on, and I know there's a lot of hours go into it, and sure appreciate that. You know, my current committee, we have a pretty small committee, but we put a lot of hours into the rodeo and to make it happen, and I'd sure like to thank them, but not only them, the 99 years of our committee members putting time and effort into it, and there's a bunch of past chairmen that are here with us and committee members, and they got as much to do with the success of our rodeo as the current committee. And the specialty acts, contract acts, our stop contractor, Powder River Rodeos, who's been with us for 30 years, they bringing us outstanding stock, and with all that, you know, it's just quite an honor, I guess, to be here, and I just want to thank all them. That's about all I got.
Ladies and gentlemen, one more time, would you give the Black Hills Rodeo Committee a round of applause and tell them thank you for all that they do for the sport of professional rodeo.
Congratulations again, Clay. Inducted posthumously, yes. Inducted posthumously this year in the event of barrel racing is the 4-time world champion Billie McBride. She was not only a champion in the arena, but a leader and a pioneer of our sport outside. Take a look at her story.
Billie Hinson McBride first saw barrel racing at an open rodeo event in 1937 and decided at the age of 10 that was the path she wanted to travel. McBride was a charter member of the Girls Rodeo Association, the GRA, formed in her hometown of San Angelo, Texas, a decade later. McBride would become the first superstar of the association to compete nearly exclusively as a barrel racer. The GRA was formed by ladies who often competed in multiple events. Picking up a Reserve World Championship in 1954, McBride went on the biggest streak of the young association's history, winning 4 straight World Championships from 1955 through 1958 on her mare, Zombie. That set a record that stood for 3 decades, not broken until Charmaine James won her 5th title in 1988. In 1955, McBride and Zombie made 99 runs and only knocked over 1 barrel. McBride also jumped into leadership roles with the GRA, serving 13 years with positions that included president, vice president, and secretary. In her role as president, McBride spearheaded an effort to get the GRA barrel race included with the newly formed National Finals Rodeo to be produced by the Rodeo Cowboys Association. Though that proved unsuccessful, McBride secured a spot for the ladies in the National Final Steer Roping, providing the GRA's first season-ending championship event and paving the way for barrels to make the jump into the NFR 8 years later. McBride passed away in May of 2017 at the age of 90, a true pioneer in the sport of rodeo.
I had the opportunity to know and get to know and to follow Billie McBride, and she would be so proud of how far barrel racing has come. And again, like George said, we stand on the shoulders of those greats. Accepting on behalf of Billie McBride is her daughter, Alva Jean Meek.
Good morning. What a wonderful day the Lord has made. On behalf of my mother, Billie McBride, and all of our family, we sincerely thank everyone who was involved in the selection process. To be included in this great group being inducted today is such an honor. Congratulations to all of you who are being inducted today. Mother would be beyond thrilled. She was so excited last year when she learned that the PRCA was going to include the WPRA in the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame, and that her longtime friend, Wanda Harper Bush, was being inducted. They were very, very good friends, as we all were. My mother and her 3 sisters had a great love for horses and began riding at an early age. After going to a rodeo in 1937 and seeing their first barrel race, they decided this is something they wanted to try, and try they did. Mother entered her first rodeo at Belton, Texas at the age of 12. The Henson sisters became quite successful barrel racers, and Mother was hooked. In the summer of 1948, in the West Texas town of San Angelo, a group of young cowgirls gathered for an all-girl rodeo. While there, they decided that they needed to form a professional organization for cowgirls similar to the Rodeo Cowboys Association, or RCA, what we called it then, for cowboys. They knew they needed rules and regulations to get better. Hence, the Girls Rodeo Association, or GRA, was born. My mother, who was 21 years old at the time, was one of those trailblazing women, a charter member. She had great compassion for the organization and her fellow competitors, and she never lost that compassion. She had a barrel, a short barrel in her living room with all of the WPRA magazines from all months in her living room. So you younger cowgirls may not know, you may not remember her, but I assure you she remembered, or she knew you. She made it a point to know what was going on with the WPRA. Mother was very involved and committed to the GRA for many years and was a proud gold card holder. She first served as a barrel race director, then vice president, then president, and finally secretary. The GRA had very strict rules, and she helped to enforce them. Another thing she did was to meet with rodeo producers and committees to convince them to include the barrel race in their rodeos and to add prize money. Oftentimes it was a hard sell, but one of the arguments was that the girls would add speed, color, glitz, and glamour to the performances. Sure enough, the crowds grew to love the fast-paced event, and more rodeos began to include the barrel race. As promised, blue jeans and plain shirts were replaced with beautiful bright colors of satin, lace, velveteen, shiny lame, and anything that sparkled. Rhinestone belts, hats, hat bands, pins, and earrings. It was a fun time in the Western world, and we loved it. Mother made all of our outfits. She also made outfits for many of the other girls. She was quite a seamstress. My daddy, Wilson McBride, was an RCA calf roper, horse trainer, and trader. He traded for a 4-year-old chestnut sorrel registered mare named Zombie in 1948 with the intentions of training her for roping, but he almost always tried horses on the barrels too, just to see what they would do. And he soon recognized that she was a natural and turned her over to Mother. After only 2 weeks of training, Mother and Zombie won the first rodeo she took her to, and the rest is history. They were the 1954 runner-up world champions, then won the world for the next 4 consecutive years, 1955 through 1958, setting a record that held for 31 years. They were the runner-up again in 1959 when, unfortunately, Zombie was diagnosed with night blindness and her professional career was cut short. You've already been told some of this, but one memorial event for Mother and Zombie was the year that they only turned one barrel over. Zombie was real good at staying off of the barrels, but if she did get a little close to one, Mother was real good about reaching down and pushing it back up, which was allowed. Her career was over professionally, but it really wasn't over totally. When she was in her 20s, my 2 sons, present today, had the privilege of winning on her in the 8 and under category of the AJRA when she was in her 20s. She never lost her love for running barrels. She loved to run barrels. When Mother was running, there were a lot of times that she and I would be up in the same performance. They would put Mother first and me last. And Mother would run, and Zombie would run her heart out, and she'd come out, and there was a frantic change of stirrup adjustments, and Zombie's panting like crazy. But when they'd lead me in then, and I started at 9 years old, when they would lead me in, she was ready to go again. And my goal was always to beat Mother because she was the one to beat. In recognition of her world championships and her many years of dedication to the WPRA, Billie McBride was so honored to be inducted into the Texas Rodeo Cowboy Hall of Fame in 1980, then into the National Cowgirl Hall of Fame in 1981, and I can tell you she is very honored today. The memory of a Texas girl who rode her beloved mare Zombie into the record books 6 decades ago will shine forever as one of the bright spots in the history of the Women's Professional Rodeo Association. Thank you again to the WPRA, the PRCA, and the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame for helping to preserve her memory. I guarantee you she's on cloud 9 today. God bless.
She's still super speedy. Congratulations, you'll be getting your awards. Can you imagine that? Those barrel racers that are in the audience know that 90 runs and only hitting one barrel is something to be really, really proud of.
Once again, a big congratulations to Billie McBride today. The next inductee that we want to talk about is, well, I think we could say after this weekend is all about photo finishing. Yesterday, when he went to get on his plane to fly up here from down in Texas, it had been canceled due to weather in other airports. And they said they could get him here today by 10 o'clock. Well, that wasn't going to work. And so they chartered a flight from Texas to Colorado Springs. Today, just moments ago, just before the event started, we couldn't find Walt Garrison. Kent Sturman told me that he had just came through the door and he was inside the hall, so I went and found him, and it was about 10 minutes till 10. And I said, Walt, they're panicking inside there a little bit. They're looking for you. And he said, well, has it started yet? I said, no, you still have 10 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, inducted in the notable category this year is Cowboy Walt Garrison. We want you to take a look right now at the video.
Walt Garrison was two types of cowboy, a fullback with the Dallas Cowboys and a pro rodeo competitor. Garrison grew up in Louisville, Texas, where he spent his youth riding horses and steers. He competed in high school rodeo and bareback riding, bull riding, calf roping, and steer wrestling. Garrison took a scholarship to Oklahoma State University, where he was a two-time All-Big 8 honoree. After completing his eligibility for football, he spent a year with the Oklahoma State rodeo team. Garrison was drafted in the 5th round by the Dallas Cowboys in 1966. Garrison made sure that his Cowboys signing bonus included a 2-horse trailer so he could still attend rodeos. Coach Tom Landry stopped Garrison from competing in the nearby rodeos the night before a game by allowing him to follow the rodeo trail in the off-season. The highlight of Garrison's rodeo career is placing 5th in the steer wrestling average at Cheyenne Frontier Days in 1974. After a torn knee ligament ended his 9-year football career, the Texas Cowboy became instrumental with U.S. smokeless tobacco. You might remember this.
Just a pinch between my cheek and gum gives me real tobacco pleasure.
Garrison went on to combine his stardom with football and rodeo to raise more than $4 million for multiple sclerosis with his Walt Garrison All-Star Rodeos over the course of 20 years. His charitable involvement also includes serving on the board of directors for the Justin Cowboys Crisis Fund for more than 2 decades. How about them Cowboys? Walt Garrison is in the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame.
Ladies and gentlemen, at 72 years old, he is still bigger than life. Would you make welcome to the podium today, Mr. Walt Garrison?
Well, I don't have nothing written down because I can't read. I went to Oklahoma State, so no, this is indeed a great honor. I started rodeoing when I was a freshman in high school, but I was a rough string guy back then. I rode bareback horses and, well, wait a minute. I got on bareback horses and bulls. But then I went to Oklahoma State. I got a scholarship up there to play football, and they wouldn't let me rodeo because you couldn't win money. I said, well, I hadn't won any yet, so why in the hell would I do it now? But I've always enjoyed rodeoing, and I started out riding bareback horses and bulls, and then I got a little, well, not talented enough. I started to say a little heavy to that, but I wasn't good enough to do it, so then I started steer wrestling, and I love that. But being here today is a great, great honor for me because I never dreamed that I would ever be in any rodeo Hall of Fame. I enjoyed it, and I loved it. And we used to go, when I was playing football with Dallas, Mesquite Rodeo had a Saturday night rodeo, and so we didn't play till Sunday, so but we had a meeting about 5:30, and Coach Landry had the meeting and everything, and then he'd turn us all loose, and a lot of the guys that were married at the time would go home and eat supper with their family, and then they'd come back by 11 o'clock curfew. I would get my truck and go to Mesquite to the rodeo where a buddy of mine had our Bulldogging and hazing horse over there. And I told Neil, I said, Neil Gay, who ran the rodeo over there, I said, I have to be up during the rodeo. And it's not because I want people to watch me. It's because Tom Landry will fine me $2,500 if I'm late for the curfew. So I would bulldog steers during the rodeo. And rodeo is based on the cowboys, and there's more cowboys here, and there's more cowboys that helped me get started in rodeo, and for that I will always be grateful. And I really appreciate this award. It's one of the best awards I've ever had, and I certainly appreciate being inducted into the Hall of Fame. Thank y'all very much.
Hey, while he gets his picture taken, let me tell you one more thing. They said of his NFL days when he was playing football, if it was the 4th down and you needed 5 yards, give the ball to Walt Garrison, it'd get you 5 yards. They also said if it was the 4th down and you needed 15 yards, give the ball to Walt Garrison, he'd get you 5 yards.
Great job, Walt. Well, you know, some cowboys and cowgirls wait a lifetime for a call from the Hall of Fame, and this year the Minick household got 2 calls. I got a chance to MC with Reed Flake, and Billie gets a chance to join his heroes here in the Hall of Fame. Some of you know I first met Billie in 1973 when I was Miss Rodeo America. 10 years later, we were married, and that was 35 years ago. Inducted this year as a stock contractor is Billie Minick. Here's his story.
Billie Minick began his professional rodeo career in 1959, enlisting in the Rodeo Cowboys Association after winning titles in both high school and college. Minick qualified for the National Finals Rodeo as a bull rider in 1966. In 1968, Minick purchased the Harry Knight Rodeo Company from Knight and legendary entertainer Gene Autry. The Billie Minick Rodeo Company produced top bucking stock, including the 1972 NFR Top Bucking Horse, Streamer, and the 1973 NFR Top Bull, Tiger. Tiger would also win Bull of the Year in 1974. Other famous stock in the Minick herd included bulls Mr. Bubbles and V61, and horses Lonesome, Crazy One, and My Fair Lady. Through the years, Minick helped produce many great rodeos, like the Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo, Rodeo Houston, the San Antonio Stock Show and Rodeo, and Cheyenne Frontier Days. On being told of his induction, Minick said, "It took my breath away at first." Now he knows how all those cowboys felt when they faced tough Billie Minick Rodeo Company stock. Take a deep breath, Mr. Minick, and welcome to the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame.
It gives me great pleasure to present my husband, Billie Minick.
We get this taken care of in the next week. Okay, thank you. Here, you want to take that?
Sure, babe.
Well, I've got a tough job. Pam Minick's a hard act to follow, I guarantee you. First, I've got a lot of friends here. A lot of them was with me last night. And of course, they're all hoorahing me, and they said, what are you going to talk about? And I said, well, a good acceptance speech starts with a good start, ends with a good start, and there's not much time in between. So I, first of all, would like to congratulate all the inductees that are here today. It's a pure honor to be with you. And next, I'd like to thank the selection committee who got me in here. I appreciate you much. And the ProRodeo Hall of Fame. They have done an outstanding job in coordinating this, dotting the I's, crossing the T's, and getting everyone in the right place. I think I'm going to talk today about the people that got me to this podium instead of my rodeo career as a stock contractor and as a rodeo contestant. First, I'm going to start, there's many that helped me, but I'm only going to talk about 3 or 4 today. The first would have to be my dad. I come right off the asphalt in the gambling halls of West Fort Worth, folks. And he raised NFR bull rider, stock contractor, and he never, when he was against my rodeo career, but when he finally decided, he was 110%. For me, he drove a lot of miles, fed a lot of cowboys. They all wanted to go home with me. They knew they'd get fed. And he never in my whole life quit me. And I wasn't exactly a model teenager, let me tell you. And so he was great friends. I was able through him to be around some of the great contestants that was the pioneers of this hall. Better? Yeah. And I was, as a 7 or 8, 9-year-old, I had the opportunity of being around Bill Linderman and Casey and all of those folks. And my dad helped a lot of people. He was a man of his word and a class act. The second person that I would like to talk about, he's already been mentioned today in one case, and that's Neil Gay. What a guy. In 1959, I bought my RCA card. You didn't have to go through the system then. And Lex Conley signed that card. Well, I immediately, on July the 4th, went to Mesquite. I won a little money on the back end. I called it crumbs. But I placed. The next week I come back, I get a little more. I placed 2 weeks in a row. I said, there's nothing to this. And the next week I had a bull, and he hopped down. So help me, when they blew the whistle, I was at the calf and steer shoot. So after the rodeo, you know, I go up to Neil Gay. And I said, Mr. Gay, or Neil, you ought to be shot for putting a bull in the draw like this. Well, to those who know Neil Gay, that wasn't a good thing to say. He put his finger in my chest and backed me up about 20 feet, just like that. And he says, I'll tell you one thing, you little starched up SOB. It's probably the only one you could ride. So help me, he was right. But little did I know at that time that I'd have a 60-year relationship with Neil Gay. He's my best friend, always been there for me. Our ups and downs, we shared a lot of pain, we shared a lot of success together. But people will never know how many people Neil Gay helped in their life, financially, getting their lives straightened out. I was at his 90th birthday. Hundreds of people was coming by shaking his hand. And he is a man that I would still, one of the few I've known in my lifetime, you can make a handshake deal with. He's 92 years old, and the reason he's not here, the boys are out of town, he's driving the feed wagon. I can't, the next gentleman I'd like to talk about is Mike Serby. Now, I know a lot of you know Mike. I sold my rodeo company to Mike and agreed to stay with him for 1 year. That would have been about 75, 76. And what Mike has done for me and my family over the years and the relationship we've had is something I'll always cherish. When I went to work for Mike, I agreed to stay 1 year. Well, that turned into 4 or 5. But when he found out that I could help fly an airplane, drive a truck, sort stock, work the timed event shoot, and ship thousands of head of cattle in the fall, I was the only guy probably in the history of the rodeo business that went in 1 year, went from leading the grand entry to working the calf and steer shoot at major rodeos. So, what a great guy he was. He taught me so much in the business world that we still use. I still use a lot of things that he taught me. 2 of them being cut your losses short and let your profits run, and don't put all your eggs in your one basket. We use those 2 rules at our business today. We both lost sons. My son passed away, and Mike was at my side within 5 hours. He helped Pam and I obtain the ranch that we have now that has become very valuable. He's another gentleman that you could have a lot of trust in, helps a lot of people, and you'll never know about it because he don't to have any credit for you. One of the reasons I'm up here, I had to talk about the Fort Worth Rodeo. What a chapter it's been in my life. I first attended the Fort Worth Rodeo in 1947. I'm nearly 80 years old, so that's dating me. My mother and I sat next to the last row at the rodeo, and we saw a gentleman named Gene Autry ride his horse up on the piano and was the entertainer at the Fort Worth Rodeo, post-war, 1947. Little did I know that Gene Autry and my life would cross paths 3 more times. Each time a 10-year part from that date, and another 10 years, and then another 20 years. That's a long story, and I don't want to bore you with it, but that was my beginning with the Fort Worth Rodeo. When I was a teenager there, and when I was 14 or 15 years old, I knew every way to slip into the rodeo. And I had all my crew with me. We made fake numbers. We had keys to locks that shouldn't be. And finally, there was a great guy named Billie Walt. He brought me into his office, and he said, Minick, you always call me Minick. He said, if you'll quit slipping in and showing these other people how to do it, I'll give you a badge. And so I went on from there actually to be a bull riding winner there and a stock contractor and put on that rodeo. When I come down that wall the first time in 1970 leading that grand entry, that was the highlight of my rodeo career at that time, and still has great, great memories. Pam and I both have sat on the board of the Fort Worth Livestock Show and Rodeo for 25 years now. And not next year, but in 19, but when you visit the Fort Worth Rodeo in 2020, you're going to be really surprised at our new facility. It's fan-friendly. It's dedicated to the fans, the livestock, the building is, and all the contestants. It is absolutely gorgeous. Sits right next door to the Cowgirl Hall of Fame. Well, we get around to the most important person. And I guarantee you, folks, I wouldn't be alive today or standing here today if it wasn't for this blonde. 35 years. And But of course, when Pam come along 35 years ago, I needed a I was off course, and she corrected that course a little. And she is my Krypton. She, without a doubt, is the heartbeat of Billy Bob's Texas and a lot of the Fort Worth stockyards. She promotes 130 concerts a year, puts up with me, cooks dinner, and exercises my horse right now while I'm crippled. And I really, really can't tell you what she means to our business and our partnership. And besides all of that, I'm married to Miss Rodeo America. I love you. In closing, I'd like to say, when you think about all the people that are in this hall, there's so many that are the generation before me that I was able to be with, especially Jim Shoulders. There's all the greats, Acreage, Bushbaum. There's so many of them, and to actually come full circle and be back with them. There's someone I'd like to introduce here a little bit, and the reason I'm going to do this, he was a person that actually was a four-man committee originally that selected this real estate, 10 acres here, in the beginning for the Cowboy Hall of Fame. And he's also an original inductive into the Cowboy Hall of Fame, my great friend Jack Roddy. Stand up, Jack. In closing, I would like for you to think about that. When you think about all these past champions and everyone that's in this hall, I want you to think, I've got another friend here who is a songwriter, ex-NFL football player that wrote a song for a while that I didn't pay much attention to, but now I do. It's called Roping and Riding for Jesus at the Big Rodeo in the Sky. Now, I'm not in any hurry to get there at all, but when you think about that, it's a good thought when you get up there and get to see all these people. God bless. Come to the stockyards. Be careful going home. I love each and every one of you. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, honey. That's the most he's gotten to speak since he married me 35 years ago.
That was awesome. Thank you, Billy. Ladies and gentlemen, the next man that we're going to introduce to you and induct into the Hall of Fame, I met probably some 30 years ago, maybe 35 years ago, inside of the Tingley Coliseum, I believe it was, at maybe the Indian National Finals Rodeo. I wasn't announcing that event, but I was running the camera for rodeo video, and it was a good thing that I wasn't announcing because I got to watching him and laughing so hard that there's no way that I could have conducted any business from the microphone. Today, ladies and gentlemen, inducted in the category of contract personnel is rodeo clown, barrel man, bullfighter, funny man, Mr. Leon Coffey, and we want you to watch this video right now.
Luke Leon Coffey grew up around horses, rodeo, and football. He competed as a junior rodeo contestant in bull riding, bareback riding, steer wrestling, and tie-down roping. He joined the U.S. Army after high school and served for 3 years. After encouragement from a friend and bullfighter, Coffey began fighting bulls instead of riding them. His signature act of dancing in front of an angry bull earned him the nicknames Disco Bullfighter and Boogeyman. As a PRCA Gold Card member and NFR Barrelman, Coffee enjoyed a long and lively career in pro rodeo as one of only 3 cowboys to be both a barrelman and a bullfighter at the NFR. Since 1973, the Texas Cowboy fought bulls at the NFR twice and was a barrelman at the NFR on 3 more occasions. Coffee won PRCA Clown of the Year in 1983 and was in the top 3 every year from 1984 through 2001. Coffee also has worked the National Circuit Finals, the Texas Circuit Finals, and the Canadian Finals. Outside of the arena, Coffee's worked on movie sets like 8 Seconds, My Heroes Have Always Been Cowboys, and Jericho. He visits children's hospitals and runs a small ranch in his off time. He'll tell you God put him on the earth to do 2 things, make people happy and help people out. He can do both in the arena. Today we're all smiles as Leon Coffee is welcomed into the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame.
Ladies and gentlemen, I know more than once we have heard him introduced this way. Please make welcome the Disco Boogeyman bullfighter from Austin, Texas.
Hello. That didn't work for a second, did it? Okay. I'm not going to win that award of speaking the longest, but I'm going to give it a pretty good shot. Let me tell you something. For me to be standing right here from where I started is a journey that I would have never in my life thought I'd be on or here to see or be a part of. It was not something I thought was in the cards. There's so many people in this audience right here that I need to thank for everything. There's so many rodeos. There's so many people that I owe. I owe you more than you'll ever know. And that's the fact that I'm standing here right now tells me I even owe you more. Let me tell you something. There's a picture that's in there of me, and it was one of the first pictures that was ever taken of me fighting bulls. And this story is going to scare you because I painted my whole face white, everything, all the way down to my neck, and I wore white gloves, and I wore a pink afro wig. Don't y'all start on that. Yeah, I wore a pink afro wig, and I did all of that because I was so afraid of being a black man in a predominantly all-white sport. I didn't know if I was at the right place. And I walked out of the arena one night, and I pulled them gloves off, and a woman fainted. I'm in trouble now. I said, this ain't gonna work, y'all. So I had to change some things. And being in that arena at a little high school rodeo to standing in front of the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame as an inductee has been a journey that I can't describe. Billie Minick was talking about all the things and all the people, and I work for Mike Serby. I know all about everybody that he's talking about. I'm not trying to tell my age either, but you know, I've been around the San Antonio Rodeo for 36 years. I worked Fort Worth for Mr. Walt. Not many people can say that. Not many people can say that the first time they ever worked San Antonio Rodeo, Pete Logan was announcing. Nobody even knows who Pete Logan was. Pete Logan announced the first National Finals Rodeo in 1959. I don't know how old I was when I worked with Pete, but I'm still here. But I'm going to tell you something. The San Antonio Rodeo, the Houston Rodeo, the Albuquerque Rodeo, the Denver Rodeo, every rodeo I've ever worked in my life has had a part of me standing right here because they gave me carte blanche. Yeah, they shouldn't have done that. There's a few of them I can't go back to now, but I just pull no punches, y'all. I enjoyed life. I felt like the good Lord put me on earth to do two things. That's help people out and make people happy. And I can do them both right out there in that arena. And to be able to do that and all of y'all enjoy it right now makes me want to cry like a baby right now. When I see world champions sitting here in the front row and I'm sitting here with a Hall of Fame world Walt Garrison, I mean, really. I told Walt Garrison one time, I said, I'm going to write a book and you in it. He said, I'll kill you. I ain't going to tell it, Walt. But I'm going to tell you, there's no way I can express the way I feel right now. There's a bunch of people here that they've been lying to me for about a month that they've been dealing with my wife and not telling me that they were coming and they were going to surprise me. They did real good, but it ain't over yet, boys. Y'all know I'm the king of pranks. You know that, right? And I do know where you live. You know, I'm sitting up here and I've been a cowboy my whole life. My granddad broke mules for the highway department when they made roads with mule teams in Fresno's. Fresno is a mule-drawn bulldozer. Not many people even know what that is. But I want to tell somebody that I really appreciate who he is, what he's doing, and I saw him at another Hall of Fame induction, and I was impressed with what he said. And that's Mr. Chris Cox right over there. Thank you, Chris. I'm going to tell y'all something. That's a man that's worried about the integrity, the morals, the scruples, and the work ethic of real cowboys. We've let that get away from us. And we need to bring back the morals, the scruples, the etiquette, and togetherness of the cowboys of yesteryear. Because that was a way of life that was mighty good for all of us. And I'd like to see it for all the kids coming up. Ladies and gentlemen, you can't imagine how great I feel right now standing right here and to be inducted into the Pro Rodeo Cowboy Hall of Fame with people like Billie, Minick, Deb Greenough, them two world champions over there. I mean, y'all changed the world with y'all's roping, then. Y'all ever feel like giving any of that money back? I'll be first in line, okay? Let me tell you something, folks. I love hearing people laugh, and that's been my greatest thrill. Thank you for laughing at me for so long. I appreciate every minute of it. And just want to say thank you to everybody in the PRCA, the PRCA committee, the Hall of Fame committee. I've had a card since 1973, and I'm going to have one till I die. So I ain't going nowhere. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for having me here.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think there is no doubt at all that Leon Coffey is in the right place. From those meager beginnings in high school rodeo to being where he is today. Pam Minick just told me that last night she had the opportunity to interview him, and back in the day before he became a barrel man and he was a bullfighter, as a black man, he said when a 2,000-pound bull was coming after a bull rider, that bull rider never said, "Ho, hang on, send the white guy in."
That's a true story. Didn't you tell me that? Our next honoree carries on a family legacy in rodeo. We all know how physically demanding bareback riding is, and this cowboy had a long career. Inducted as a bareback rider this year is world champion Deb Greenough. Let's take a look at his video.
It may seem like Deb Greenough was destined for rodeo greatness. He was born into the family of the riding Greenoughs and named after world champion Deb Copenhaver. Yet, Greenough credits a three-letter word for much of his success: try. Greenough qualified for the National Finals Rodeo 13 consecutive years, starting in 1988, tied with Joe Alexander for the fifth most overall NFR qualifications in PRCA history. His 15 career NFR go-round wins at the NFR is also fifth most in his event. Greenough won a bareback riding NFR average title in 1992 and the world title in 1993. Greenough was also known for his success within the Montana circuit, where he won 5 circuit titles. Currently, Greenough's 3 national circuit finals titles ties him for the most among bareback riders. Greenough says, "I dreamed of one day rodeoing and going up and down the road and getting to the finals and hopefully winning a world title. That was my passion." He turned his passion into a world title and now a home in the ProRodeo Hall of Fame.
Reed and I have had the opportunity to interview and be around this guy for most of his rodeo career, and I challenge you to have ever seen him without a smile on his face, and that's why he was voted one of the fan favorites in rodeo, Deb Greenough.
Well, I tell you what, let's just all get it over with right now and start crying so we can be like Leon and laugh at the end of this deal. You guys got to start it, though. Whew. Rich and Speed, it gets worse as people get up here now, I'm telling you. They're holding you guys till later. Well, I guess ever since I was little, younger, still might be little, I just love the idea of rodeo. My cousin Bruce Teal's out here in the section right out here today. It's dark up here. As cousins, we used to play rodeo when we was kids, and we pretended we was Bill Smith and J.C. Bonine and Joe Alexander, and that was just when we was probably about 4 or 5 years old. It kind of went on from there to where next thing you know, we're kind of getting the ranch horses out, and really unbeknownst to our parents, maybe they knew, maybe they didn't, but the old bareback rigging went on the horses, and we'd be jumping ditches with them. Typical kid play. That's how it grew up. On the ranch, we used to have a propane tank out there, and again, that was probably, when I was around 4 or 5. Well, it had the little hooks on the end, so, a truck could pick them up or whatnot, but them hooks looked like a bareback rigging handle to me. So I'd crawl on that propane tank, and I'd go to spurring it. Well, that just wasn't quite right, so I'd turn around backwards, so I had to really lift on that handle and go to spurring the heck out of that propane tank. I dreamed of flying, too. We had a outdoor barbecue pit at the ranch, and I built an airplane out of 2x4s, and I packed it up on top of that barbecue pit and jumped off. And I think to that point today, my flying wasn't very good, and that's why my voice squeaks a little bit. The nose hit the ground, the tail hung up on the back of the barbecue pit, and believe it or not, my legs were shorter then, so yeah, it was a struggle. My dad's here today. Well, one of the toughest men you'll ever meet, I'm telling you. I come home one time pretty early in my pro rodeo career, and the wind had been blowing around Fromberg and had a sliding door on the shop. The wind had blew it off. It's on one of them sorry old barn tracks, you know, when they fall out, they ain't worth a darn. He'd put it up in that wind, but in the process, he'd cut himself, his hands up pretty good. And as I pulled in, there was blood paw marks. If you've ever seen his hands, I'm talking big paw marks, all over that garage door. Well, he just got her done, and I said, shoot. I didn't get there quite in time. I said, you all right? He said, yeah, I guess I better go clean up. I mean, you know, things like that that are instilled in not just ranch and community. I'm talking any walk of life. We all know them out there where we've got heroes that were tough and finished the job. They never whined. They kept going at her till it was done. Took care of other things before they took care of themselves. My mom, about 5 foot tall, they used to call her Dolly. She had triceps bigger than most of us. And a reach on her like you can't believe when you was a little kid in trouble. He'd be in trouble, you knew a paddling was coming, you'd have to run like this. Why I stuck my free hand in the air, I don't know, because that was the first thing she grabbed, and I looked like a paddle ball then. That was always every so often. No, I'm truly blessed. I guess I'd like to wish my son Turk happy birthday today. 18 years old on August 4th. Quinn, my oldest boy, is 24. A lot of you guys remember Quinn. I think Quinn traveled with me ever since he was in diapers till the time he started school. And what an honor that was. It's just a testament of what a great sport we have where you can really bring your family with you. Take them to work. And it's really not work. It's just a family vacation. Even though you drive all night from one to the next, you know, it's still a good deal. So many people to thank. My girlfriend Patty's here with me today, with all of us, with the family. I'm digging for something here. So George gave me a coin with the PRCA logo on it, and I think we all got one. They're really neat. But I always knew that rodeo was going to be a part of my life one way or another because I just loved it so much, and I loved riding bucking horses, and whatever else came with it was just awesome. But I couldn't wait till someday when I could get that RCA sticker, which it was at the time when my dad was riding, but be out there in the hills of the Pryor Mountain fencing, and there's that RCA sticker on the windshield of your ranch truck, bouncing through that sagebrush. Nothing smells better than sagebrush as your muffler runs over it, you know. Boy, what a good smell. But I looked at that sticker, and today there's a lot of associations out there. I don't know, but I can, as far as I'm concerned, that is probably the classiest logo. There's nothing overly fancy about it, but it just stands out, and it just stands out big to what this whole association is about. And I want to thank this association for surviving the tough times and the good and everything they've got dreamed up for our future people. And this most amazing thing I never even dreamed of was ever going to happen, and I'm so thankful for it. And thanks for kind of keeping our dreams alive. And Thank you so much. This is great. Thanks, everyone, for being here, and it means a lot because Leon might be missing that laughing, but I sure like listening to that clapping.
Good job. Congratulations again, Mr. Deb Greenough.
You know, I think it's awesome that we take the opportunity to induct some of our equine athletes, some of the animals that have been such a big part of professional rodeo, because we know that as stock contractors, as folks that compete, we cannot do it without the animals that we have. And inducted this year in the livestock category is French Flash Hawk, otherwise known as Bozo. Turn your attentions to the monitor as we watch a quick video about Bozo.
With his big blaze face, French Flash Hawk, known as Bozo, was one of the most recognized athletes in pro rodeo in his time. Purchased as a 2-year-old by Kristie Peterson for just $400, Bozo stormed the rodeo world in 1993, nearly upsetting Charmaine James and Scamper in a quest for their 10th straight championship. The next year, Peterson and Bozo won the first of 4 WPRA world titles. They added 3 reserve world titles, 5 consecutive National Finals Rodeo average titles, and 4 Dodge National Circuit Finals Rodeo titles. The Thomas and Mack Center was a perfect fit for Bozo. The Sorrel Freight Train placed in 22 consecutive rounds from 1995 through 97, missed a check in the first round of 1998, then rattled off another 17 straight checks. A level of success never seen before or since at the Wrangler NFR. Bozo was voted AQHA Horse of the Year 5 times and WPRA's Horse with the Most Heart 4 times. By the stallion Sunfrost, out of Casey's Charm, Bozo's accuracy on the pattern had breeders seeking out his bloodlines. Peterson retired the gelding not long after winning her 3rd Rodeo Houston title in 2003. On May 4th, 2016, at the age of 29, Bozo died peacefully at their home in Texas.
Ladies and gentlemen, today accepting for Bozo is owner Kristie Peterson, but today we would like to make welcome to the podium. You can both come if you would like to. We would like to make welcome the person who raised Bozo, Elizabeth Holman.
It's my great, great honor to be here today. And in addition to thanking the WPRA and the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame, I want to thank Kristie Peterson and her family for including our family in this incredible honor. I believe Bobby Baffert was quoted as saying that a great horse can change your life. I believe Bozo was a great horse that changed many lives. There's probably no doubt that Chuck and Kristie Peterson would say that Bozo changed their life. There's a lot of people in South Dakota who believe he changed their lives also. As a matter of fact, our auctioneer that sells our horses says that Bozo should be on Mount Rushmore. Bozo was born on a ranch in central South Dakota. And we have to believe that God had his hand in Bozo ending up in Elbert, Colorado with Chuck and Kristie Peterson. My husband John and I bought Casey's Charm, Bozo's mother, from my mother. My mother and father raised horses in South Dakota on their small family farm. And they had a mare by the name of Casey's Lady Love. Casey's Lady Love's daughters went to the racetrack under the tutelage of Pat Cowan as a trainer, and almost all of them achieved a speed index before they came back to the farm and became brood mares. My father died in 1977, and after that my mother lost a bit of her heart in keeping up with the horses. Casey's Charm had aged a bit in the pasture, and my husband and I bought her as a brood mare. We brought her colts to Littleton, and my husband would halter break them. And Bozo was at best difficult on the ground. We didn't have the benefit of Chris Cox being on TV at that time. So we did what we could. John could pick up all of his legs as long as he did it from the left side. He could reach under his belly and pick up those legs, but if he approached him on the right side, the horse wasn't at all cooperative. He was extremely skittish. We began to believe that maybe he had a sight problem. We inquired with the vet, and they confirmed our suspicions. And so, because of that, we traded Bozo to a trainer by the name of Mike Hatfield, who lived in eastern Colorado. And that, we believe, was fate playing its hand so that Kristie and Chuck would end up with Bozo. Kristie, as you heard, bought Bozo for $400. What they didn't tell us is that after Bozo started to do so well, Kristie went back and left another $100 in Mike Hatfield's mailbox because Mike had originally asked for $500 for the horse. I think Bozo's story is a family story. Once Bozo started to run as well as he did, Kristie and Chuck had all kinds of offers to sell him. But they couldn't part with him because he was part of their family. Kristie and Chuck and Bozo and their young daughter Jordan hit the rodeo trail. And they lit that rodeo trail up. Bozo was not an easy horse. Bozo was arrogant. He believed his way wasn't the best way, it was the only way. And Kristie had the wisdom to respect Bozo's personality. Because of that, Bozo gave everything he had to Kristie. He ran in any type of arena, any size of arena, any type of ground, any type of weather condition, and he gave 100% every run. After Kristie and Bozo quit pro-rodeoing, Kristie took over, or I should say Bozo took over the training of Jordan and taught her to run barrels and run poles. Kristie's husband, Chuck, was a true partner in Bozo's story. He went up and down the road with Kristie all the time. He took care of Bozo every day of Bozo's life that they had him. For 27 years, Bozo was the first thing Chuck saw in the morning and the last thing he tended to before he went to bed at night. In our family, Bozo changed lives. I told you about Casey's Lady Love. Well, she was inducted into the AQHA Hall of Fame. At the time she was inducted, we thought that her offspring had earned over $11 million in the rodeo arena. They were good horses. They might be great horses. But it took Kristie and Bozo to bring the national attention to those horses. They brought attention to Casey's Lady Love and her offspring, to Sunfrost and the Cowan family and their offspring. Horses were bought by Mel Potter, Sherry Servey ran him, and offspring of them. Frenchman's Guy became one of the greatest barrel-producing horses in the United States. And we believe that no matter how good those horses are, it took great horsemen to get them there. And Kristie and Bozo showed those great horsemen what those horses could be. Bozo lived his retirement at the Peterson's place in Lott, Texas. He didn't really care for other horses. In his lifetime, when they'd put another horseman with it, they'd call it Bozo bait because he wasn't very kind to him. But in his retirement, he took care of a little brand of broodmares. And when those broodmares would foal, Bozo was those foals' best friend. And when those foals were weaned, Uncle Bozo would move to the weaning pasture with them and take care of them. After Kristie and Bozo started to do well, my husband and I gave Casey's charm back to my mother. And my mother so enjoyed her last years, her last decades. She got phone calls every day asking about her breeding program. She sold foals out of Casey's charm for a lot of money. She retired very comfortably because of that mare and because of Kristie and because of Bozo. Our family was blessed by Bozo. I believe he changed our lives When Casey's Charm was inducted into the AQH Hall of Fame, my mother had passed. But my mother always gave credit to the good horsemen and the good horsewomen that rode those horses. She would say it didn't matter how good a horse was. If they weren't handled right, it simply didn't matter. She believed that no one else could have handled Bozo the way Kristie did, and we believe that also. They were a true team. My nephew once said, you know, we thank the people and we should thank them. He said, but I think we also got to thank Bozo. He proved to the world 5 times he really wasn't a clown. Thank you, Kristie.
While they're getting their pictures taken, I want you to think of something here. Bozo was purchased, the original purchase price, as you just heard, was $400. And when Kristie started riding Bozo, she stopped Charmaine James's streak of 10 straight in a row of winning world titles. Charmaine purchased Scamper for $1,100. She purchased Bozo for $400. So for $1,500, those 2 horses dominated Pro Rodeo for 11 years and won all kinds of titles. One more time, would you give them a round of applause?
Stay right here then. Well, after learning about Bozo, you know what an incredible horse this lady trained and rode. Inducted this year in the contestant barrel racing category is Kristie Peterson, a 4-time world champion. Take a look at her achievements.
Kristie Peterson's rise to stardom in the Women's Professional Rodeo Association started in 1989 when she was working as a captain at her local sheriff's department, overseeing the jail and dispatchers. She'd had rodeo success earlier in youth and amateur rodeos. Peterson jumped into the fray with a talented gelding she'd trained and brought through the futurity competitions, a horse named French Flashhawk, better known as Bozo. Following on the heels of Charmaine James and her great horse Scamper, Peterson and Bozo ended James' streak of 10 straight world titles, claiming the first of 4 WPRA world titles in 1994. She finished second in 1995 before rattling off 3 more championships in 1996, 97, and 98. Peterson finished as the reserve champion 3 times and won 5 consecutive NFR average titles. Throw in 4 Dodge National Circuit Finals titles and nearly every major rodeo in the country. She was also very strong close to home, dominating in Denver, Colorado Springs, and Cheyenne. Peterson and Bozo placed in 20 consecutive rounds at the NFR in 1996 and 97, a record that still stands today. Peterson recorded $1.3 million in career earnings and became the second WPRA cowgirl to cross the $1 million mark. Today, she has a home in the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame.
As a barrel racer myself, it gives me great pride to introduce Kristie Peterson. Congratulations.
Thank you. Colorado is my home state, and I'm sure glad to be back here. I'd like to thank the WPRA. I'm glad that you all are working together so that we can have this great honor. PRCA, thank you. It's been a great weekend. I let Liz talk about Bozo because I can't. And there's a lot of people here that had a lot to do with my career. And first it was my parents, and they're here. They could have been laying on the beach in Mexico every weekend, but they were at the rodeos with my brother and I, taking us all the time in the summer. So if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have been prepared when I got Bozo. I always said that rodeo is a roller coaster, and everybody, my friends, my family, and all the people in Elbert, which is my hometown, were on that roller coaster with me. And it was so much fun. We were like the hillbillies come to NFR. We celebrated my parents' 50th anniversary there. My kids came every year. I have 8 grandchildren, which are girls, and 1 boy. So this award means a lot so that they can look back and be proud and hopefully have a career with horses too. I don't know, I kind of wish my parents would stand up, and I'd like to honor them. Leon, I'm going to have the shortest one. Thank you all very, very much. My husband couldn't be here. He's the livestock man, caretaker. He couldn't leave during this drought, but he and Bozo had the best relationship. Anyway, thank you. Thank you, and my Texas buddies are here too.
Kristie, it's not just you that got misty-eyed. I shed a little tear when Billie spoke, but I shed a big tear when I saw the story of Bozo. Congratulations again.
Well, we had the next inductee pretty nervous last night because we told him that he was going to have to speak last night as well as today. And when he took the podium last night, he was ready to take the microphone out of my hand. But we're going to give him the opportunity in just a few moments. Ladies and gentlemen, in the team roping, 8 titles to their name. They have done everything that could be done in the team roping world. I want you to take a look at the monitors right now as we induct Mr. Rich Skelton into the Hall of Fame.
Rich Skelton bought his PRCA card in 1986, and today he's still competing. He made his first National Finals rodeo appearance in 1990, heeling for T-Woman. When Woman decided to slow down in late 1997, Skelton joined with header Speed Williams. The duo went on to break or tie all team roping records in their 9-year partnership. Skelton has also competed as a calf and steer roper, finishing 4th in the all-around race in 2000. Skelton has 22 NFR qualifications on his resume and a 2007 National Final steer roping qualification. Skelton credits part of his success to his horses. Both Roni and Chili Dog have been a past AQHA PRCA Heel Horse of the Year. Skelton says, I wanted to make the NFR and I wanted to win the World Championship, and then things just kept going our way. Speed provided the speed, and Rich tossed in the consistency. Today, Rich Skelton joins his peers in the ProRodeo Hall of Fame.
Make him welcome to the podium, ladies and gentlemen. Those of you that were able to watch him win one of his first world titles back in the late 90s, you'll remember that as he left the stage after winning the world title, he forgot to thank his wife, Rhonda, for everything that she had done, and he ran back up on stage, so don't forget Rhonda today.
She's the first one we have to talk about. So, first I have to get my cheat sheets. So, you know, the first thing I want to do today to talk about is, here we go, is the PRCA and the Hall of Fame committee for making this day possible. It's very cool, you know, being here with all these folks in the front row. Walt, Garrison, very cool. Leon, just all of y'all. Kristie, it was, you know, it's crazy. It's a crazy ride, but it's been fun. But, you know, and one thing I would like to talk about is my family. My dad's here today. I cannot be here today at all without him or my mom. They was very instrumental in keeping me horses, steers. You know, Mom, she always cooked for everybody when they come by. It was just a cool atmosphere. I couldn't ask for better parents. Thank you, Posto. You know, and, you know, things change as you get older. I have a beautiful wife and daughter. You know, it's people has no idea how much time Rhonda spent taking away from her career in barrel racing and things, right, helping me. And nowadays I see it with Rainey. You know, she's helping her. And so, Rhonda Lynn, you can't believe how much Rainey and I love you. Speed's laughing at me, so that's good. So it was there's a friend sitting here. I'd like for him to stand up too. Dipper Green, James Green. He helped me through all 8 of my championships, drove, never wrecked me not one time, and I can't say that here lately. So that, he truly earned the honor of the King of the Road. So, it's a very great honor. Hell, I messed these up, so here we go. So, but I'd like to thank Speed. To me, he not only changed heading at the Thomas and Mack, he changed the way I thought about practicing. Y'all can't believe the things that we did at home to practice. We set up the first NFR in snow fence, red snow fence, and muleys. That don't go together. We had to figure out after that we needed some panels. So, but everything that we always did seemed to work out. And I have to credit Speed because he taught me how to practice. His idea about roping was to make your practice harder than it was at the rodeo. And we did that, and we started getting better, and started, the first, there's a lot of times I thought it was crazy, things we did, but every time it always seemed to work out. So, but I remember one time we was out in Salinas, and Speed's idea of practicing when we would rope would always be you'd make your we would rope the last steer, the last day, the worst steer we had in the pen. You had to go catch him. He'd call it high teamer. All you had to do is catch him. And I remember one time we was high team out in Salinas, and we're going down through there, and it's a long score out there, and you're running a ways. We'd be 12-13 just to win the rodeo. Speed gets close. He goes to ducking his head. Speed's talking to me as we're going down to the arena. He's like, he's ducking his head. He said, high teamer. And so we went ahead and caught him, and it worked out. We won the rodeo. So, it was, but I have to give Speed a lot of credit on our team, not only his heading, but the way he approached my practice. And we did things different. So, and so also today, in rodeo, timing's everything, in horsepower. We had the greatest horses at the time for what we was trying to accomplish. Speed had great head horses for short scores, Viper. He had great head horse for long scores for Salinas, Bob. I had 3 really great horses, Roni, Chili Dog, and Gambler. They, and you can't be fortunate, to have those horses. The older you get, and when you don't have those horses, you know how good they was, and you go to missing them. So, but like I say, I have a great family, and that's, to me, like nowadays, the older we get, times change. When I talk to Speed nowadays, it's not about roping. We talk about our kids, what they're doing, how they're doing at the rodeos. And to me, if we can do, there goes another one. If we do anything about this, if we if we can accomplish and do anything, if our kids can learn and accomplish anything that we went through, and we can teach them anything, it makes it all worth it. So, and today also I'd like to thank, one thing I want to thank is the sponsors and the people that's been behind me. I mean, I've been very, very blessed and fortunate to have sponsors that's been with me my whole career. And I could not be here today without y'all. All my friends came, a bunch of them, and I was nervous about getting up here, but, a friend of mine told me, says, everybody out there is friends and family. And after you got talking about it, I wasn't so nervous, and they're right. Thank y'all for coming today, and thank y'all.
We had that glued down, George. That was glued down. Ladies and gentlemen, one more time, would you give him a round of applause? Hall of Fame inductee Rich Skelton today.
You know, as the Hall of Fame inducts the champions of the past, in team roping, most of the people before have actually ended their career in the arena. But in team roping, that doesn't happen because our inductees this year, and as will be probably in the future, are still competitors. So also inducted in the team roping is Rich's partner for those 8 world championships. And what the announcers always said is, if you want to get rich, you got to have speed. And when you think of a competitor with a singular focus and ice water in his veins, you think Speed Williams. Turn your eyes to the video.
Ken Speed Williams was born and raised in Jacksonville, Florida. He started roping before he could walk, and by the time he was 14, he had a bank account full of winnings. Williams made his first trip to the National Finals Rodeo in 1988, heeling for Casey Cox. After that experience, Williams went home and switched to heading. He believed there were more improvements to make to that side of the event. He is credited with starting a new style of swinging the rope in the box, and his style of catching lowered times and won money. Williams partnered with Rich Skelton in 1997, and the rest is history. The pair won 8 consecutive team roping world titles. Williams, who qualified for the Wrangler National Finals Rodeo 15 times, is one of only 6 team ropers to make it to the NFR as both a header and a heeler. Williams spent his time off helping other ropers with schools and online educational videos that now number in the thousands. Williams says, "It's a great honor to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Rich and I had a fairy tale career, and words don't really describe how I'm feeling." Speed Williams, welcome to the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame.
Ladies and gentlemen, I give to you Speed Williams.
It's not good when your talker walks up with water, is it? Well, guys, for a young man coming through Colorado Springs, headed to the National High School Finals in 1982, I was a freshman, stopped in here and looked around. This was not something I foreseen for my future. My father was a cowboy. I was a roper. And a lot of people don't feel like cowboys. Team ropers are a little step below the real cowboys. We all know what I'm talking about, Leon. So, there's a lot of people I want to talk about that helped me get here today. Number one was my father. And what I talked about earlier, he was a cowboy. He taught me a lot of things, fundamentals, way to go about stuff. He told me when I was young he was going to cheat me every way possible, steal from me, take from me, so when I left home I was prepared for the world. And Lord, he did that. He made a deal with me when I was 12, 13 years old. We sat down and talked. He said, "Son, there's a lot of opportunities out there in life for you to get distracted." He said, "I'm going to make a deal with you. If you want to drink, if you want to smoke, if you want to dip, if you want to smoke marijuana, if you want to do cocaine, you come to me, I'll buy it for you." We sat down and we do it together. To this day, I've never drank, dipped, smoked, nothing in my entire life, because I made him a deal I wouldn't, and then it could become not cool. He had a lot of people around that were abused those things and got addicted really bad. And I got to see them on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday starving, didn't have no money to eat, but they'd buy their snuff, cigarettes, and their alcohol. So I was scared to get addicted. I was afraid of what it would do to me. But I made a deal with my father, and I honored it. Now, one of the things that he taught me was about patience. I was a very successful healer when I was young. I was about 14. I'd acquired me about 7 horses. And he bought in a new paint horse that looked really, really cool. I could head and heel on him. I decided I wanted that horse pretty bad. He agreed to trade with me. We negotiated a little bit, but he wanted all 7 of my horses for that one horse. I wanted that horse really bad. So I traded with him. That night I went to bed, got up the next morning at breakfast. I sat down. I said, "Dad, we need to talk." I said, I don't think I did a very good job on that trade. He said, no, son, you didn't, but we shook hands and it's done, and I'm going to teach you something about patience. Don't ever get impatient about something you want. To this day, that has stuck with me in all my business deals of thinking about it for at least 24 hours before I make a rash decision on something. But he was a cowboy. We would go work cows, leave in the morning, come home at night. Wouldn't drink anything, wouldn't eat anything, go all day. I looked like a pack rat when I left. I had drinks tied on my saddle, chips in my saddle, in my pockets, crackers, because I didn't know when I was going to come back. And probably to this day, you can ask Rich, I hardly go anywhere we stop, I get a drink. I got one sitting in the truck all the time just because I don't know when the next time we're going to stop is. I was a healer when I made the national finals in 1988. I come home, told my father there was a lot of room for improvement on the head and end. If anybody's ever hit a deer in the headlight, that's what he looked like. He did not believe all the time and effort that it took to train me to be a healer that I was going to switch ends. It took about 2 or 3 years, and we had a couple guys quit, and there was 3 healers and 1 header. I come to him and told him I need to head for a couple weeks, Dad. He said, son, I'm not that stupid, but go ahead. Let me pick out a head horse to take. Took him to the rodeo. I won 7 out of 8 checks on that horse that weekend. Come home, got up, about lunch, there was 2 rigs pulled in. He sold that horse Monday. He did that to me 4 weeks in a row. Whatever horse I hauled off, he sold on Monday. I said, sir, this isn't working out real well. He said, it's doing really good for me. So I got an older horse that had a roach mane, had the old fungus under his belly that could run real fast. I kept him till he died. So in 1996, I was rodeoing, heading, was high callback at Denver. And I had a horse that was a little bit of an outlaw, and I got to being nice to him. Not riding him as much, baby him a little bit because I was winning on him. Let him down there at the practice pen. 3rd steer I run on him, he bucked me off and broke my right shoulder. I went to the doctor that night. They told me I'd never rope again. I had shattered my arm. I was staying with Popeye and Jan Boltinghouse. Miss Jan didn't really like that news. So she got on the phone and she found a doctor in Fredericksburg that was a head surgeon for the San Diego Chargers for 10 years and moved over and started his new practice. She got me in there the next morning, went in there, I had surgery, we come out of there. The doctor told me I should be able to do anything that I could do before. My shoulder was like you took a hammer to a piece of glass and shattered it. He taped it back together. There was no pins, nothing in there that had to come out. And that lady did a lot. If it wouldn't have been for her, no telling where I'd be at today. My mom, I would like for you to stand up there because I'm going to tell a story on you. She drove a many miles, hauled me all over the place, make sure I made it home to be at school, 8 a.m. We could go as far as we could go, as long as I could be home to go to school Monday morning. I could tell some stories on her when I found out how scrappy she was one time, or how tough she was behind the microphone. But I was at school one day, My father was an old cowboy, I told you, so I couldn't pull a prank on him. I decided to pull a prank on my mom. I'd found a clip-on earring at school. Come in. Me and my mom's been pretty tight all of our lives, talked about a lot of stuff. So I sat down on the bed, and she walked in, and I had it on my right ear. And I kind of was talking to her, and I turned around. And y'all seen how small she is, right? She looked like a bulldog. She looked, she stared, she never said a word to me. She lowered her shoulder, run over top of me, put both knees on my shoulder, run her finger in the clip-in and ripped it out. And said, "You better be glad." I expected that from my father. I did not expect that from my mother. I wasn't even dare my father because he liable to knock me out before that would even happen. My wife, she give up her life. She drove, she filmed hundreds of heads of steers a day. She would film those steers so I would know what the next cow was. Leon was talking about her riding horses in the arena. She played polo when she was young. She was a good hand on a horse, warmed them up, kept them going. For 6 years, she was the ultimate driver, wife, going down the road. And then one day she told me she had heartburn. She was pregnant. That loving wife turned into a gremlin. She did not like me. She did not like herself. She didn't like being pregnant. She was sick all the time. She was grouchy. And I'm telling you what, had I not been married to her for 6 years and knew who I was, I'd walk in the door and ask her, "Who's here today?" Because she was totally emotional, and there is no explaining some of the things she did, said. We would be driving down the road. She was hungry, starving. We would stop, order food. Food would get there. "I can't eat. I'm sick. It makes me sick." Well, I would eat. Get in the truck. We wouldn't go another hour. "I'm hungry." Stop. We'd eat 4 or 5 times a day. I would. She'd snack. Cravings. Then we had a daughter. And a lot of my life changed on that year. I went from being a gambler, trying to figure out how to provide for my family. And about 3 years later, she told me she was pregnant again. And I cannot tell you the chills that went down my back. But she was as happy, cheerful with our son like the first day I married her. I cannot believe the opposite that she was from one to the other. Now, Rich. Won't be no tears on this one. We were riding around at Spanish Fork, Utah. I was roping with Clay O'Brien Cooper, and he's roping with T. Woolman. They both had kids, and they wanted to go home and go to school. Me and Rich wanted to win a world title. They both had a couple. So we was visiting. I don't believe, had we run a steer in a jackpot arena one time? We had never practiced. I'd seen him rope. He'd seen me rope. Our agreement was to go up there and rodeo in the Northwest, and we come home, we was going back to rope with our own partners. Well, things had went pretty good up there. We'd won a couple of them, won Pendleton, come home. I'd called the USTRC office to enter the U.S. finals with Clay. He was already entered with T. Walked out, and I said, "Rich, have you talked to T?" He said, "No." I said, "Well, they already entered the U.S. finals." He said, "Let's do it." And that's kind of how it happened. Now, the very first day in the practice pen, Rich steers weighed about 750 pounds. He had been roping them for a couple years. He knew what each one of them was going to do before we run. The first day, I said, "Rich, this ain't going to work." He said, what do you mean? I said, this ain't testing you at all. My horses, they're huge. I don't like this at all. He says, what do you want to do? I said, are you sure you're game for this? He said, yeah. I said, let's go buy us 20 350, 370-pound muleys. He said, all right. We're getting ready for the National Finals Rodeo. Now, Rich run 100 steers in the practice pen, never missed 2 feet on his steers. We run those 20, we didn't have a clean run. My man was not happy. And when I say he was not happy, he didn't like that at all. I told him when we get to the National Finals Rodeo, it's going to be a whole lot easier. My theory and everything we practice is to make it harder so when we get somewhere, it's easier. He said, all right, we'll try it. We put up fence, them muleys tore it down. We learned a lot of things that we had to do. We showed up at the national finals, and it was like we was roping Holsteins. It was slow motion. He said, you were right, because it looks slow back there right now after roping them little fast calves. You don't know where they're going. Now I want to talk about his willingness. Now I want to talk about how hard-headed he was. We had difference of opinions of rodeoing. I wanted to work on paper where it's profitable. He wants to go because he went last year to Pecos, Texas. Pecos, Texas was a nightmare for me, logistics. I was the one, when we weren't buddying with T and Rich, was figuring out where all we was going and trying to line up the plane, trains, automobile, horses, and sometimes having 5 rigs on the road. It is a nightmare when everything else is in the northwest and Pecos is down here. Every year we had to go to Pecos. They had steer roping. So one year I convinced him we're going to run 2 steers at Pecos. We are turning out at the short round no matter what. He agrees to this. All right. We win the first round, we split the second round. And anybody that's ever dealt with Rich, when he walks up to you and he's got a smirk on one side and a frown on the other, he's fixing to sell you something. He says, we can make it. I says, no, Rich, we can't make it. It's 2 hours and 30-minute flight from Cody to Pecos. Cody starts at 4. Pecos starts at 7, time change. We cannot make it. We're going to make it. He doesn't get into the planes, trains, planning all this stuff very much. For 3 days, he is on the phone calling people. He has done found a Lear jet that will fly in 2 hours and 10 minutes. I said, Rich, that gives us 5 minutes to spare. He gets Mac Altizer to move a contract act ahead of the team roping. That gives us 10 more minutes. Mac gets fined for it. He didn't leave out, it's going to cost us $10,000 to go to a rodeo that pays $3,500. But we're going. So, needless to say, we're at Red Lodge that morning. Cody that afternoon, supposed to be in Livingston that night, but we messed up, didn't get the draw. But the kicker was we got to be in St. Paul, Oregon the next morning at 8 a.m. Pecos is not on that trip. So we go over to Red Lodge. I agree. Whatever he wants to do, I'm game. Well, now he's done got some calf ropers that are in the short round. Roy, Tommy Guy. It ends up only costing us exactly what Pecos pays to do this. We go to Red Lodge. Something happens at the slack. We end up having to send Dipper to Cody, and we got to get on at Red Lodge. I said, what are we going to do now? I've got a plane lined up to fly us from Red Lodge to Cody. I'm like, oh, boy. I look over there, and there is like a little bitty plane. The man is pushing on the runway. I said, Rich, that's not our plane. Might be. They take off. Whew, that is not us. come back and land right there. If you ever been to Red Lodge, there's a ramp. You walk over, he's sitting right by the ramp. I said, Rich, you are kidding me. Last minute details. We get in this plane, the smallest plane I have ever been in my life. And those of you who've been at Red Lodge in Cody, the wind blows a lot up there. Never really rode bulls. My dad told me I had to do 51-handed push-ups before I could ride bulls. I never got there. But that was the roughest plane ride over there. We get to Cody, the plane is going like this, coming into the runway. I'm on the back and I can hold both sides of the plane. And I am just praying to get to the ground. We land, we got a shuttle there. They take us flying, they got road construction, we go around behind. We literally get to Cody. Time to get on our horse, back in the box. We get smoked. I don't even hit the cow with my rope. Jump out of the truck, jump off our horses, jump in back into the shuttle, hospitality shuttle. Whole time Rich is telling her, go faster, go faster. She's running red lights, stop signs. We get to the airport, and there is a nice Lear sitting there, and all the calf ropers are in. We don't even, Rich is first, I'm the last one in. I'm not in my seat. The plane takes off like it is down the runway. They take this plane straight up, and when they come down, they come straight down, land at Pecos. Had we known what we drawed at Pecos, we would have never even went. Steer run was no good. We only had to be 13 to win the rodeo. We were 12 and clean and broke even for the day. But my man accomplished what I did not believe was possible. He got it done. And talking about Salinas, we did it all the time. High teamer, you got to be 11 seconds to win the roping. There's so many guys that fail in those situations. We practiced it all the time, but at Salinas, we're running wide open down the arena, and we are a long ways from this cow. And I look over and I tell him, you didn't draw very good today. We get to the back end. He says, don't ever talk to me again while we're trying to rope a cow. No way to thank all the people that drove, all the people that we stayed with. Dipper Green was a warrior. If we let him talk, he could tell some pretty funny stories on us. Most common question I get from people ask me, do you miss it? No question I don't miss it. You miss the National Finals Rodeo. You miss winning. But the practice, the preparation that it takes to be exceptional with having 2 kids, for me, it's virtually impossible. Because I've turned my life into teaching people what I do, what I love to do, and both of my kids had the option of doing anything they wanted. I told them I'd support them. I would bribe them into roping. If they wanted something, they could earn it by roping with me or helping me do stuff. Both of my kids are roping, riding horses, are going to rope this year at the junior high rodeos. It's going to be pretty interesting. My daughter has a nickname for me. It's called Rope Boy. When she calls me Rope Boy at the junior high rodeos, you see the other kids look at her and go, you just call Speed Williams Rope Boy? He goes, yeah, he's my dad. That's his job. Get the ropes ready. And like I said, I love to teach roping, figure out a way to make a living, start an online training site. And I teach people all the time private lessons of how to rope, little things. And what me and Rich did, a lot of things on watching the video, breaking down the small, little details of what makes a difference in the winners and losers. But I will give Rich one thing. He thought a lot of my ideas were crazy, but he was always willing to try them. And a lot of times they worked out, and I'll give him that trip on Cody because there's no way I thought we was going to get that pulled off. Want to thank some of the sponsors that's been with us for a long time. Breford, ever since I won my first world title, been with me for a long time. A lot of innovation, a lot of different things. Larry Coates was up here the other day talking about Rich, his first endorsee. If you ever been around Rich very long, he's going to convince you Coates is the only saddle made in the United States of America. He is a true believer, firm believer. Coates has made me a lot of saddles, been with him a lot of times. Bloomer Trailers. Rich hooked me up with Randy. Randy's taken care of me a long time up here, traveling up and down the road. Come a long ways from riding on top of a trailer with no air. When I got a radio up in there, I thought it was high cotton. We could adjust how much air we got by how much you stuck between the door and the front, climb in and out of the truck going down the road. Hot Hills, been with me over all these, been over 15 years. A lot of different innovations on the machines, different things to teaching. And Kurt Matthews has been building my ropes. He's currently with Top Hand for over 15 years. We wouldn't be here without the people that's helped us. A lot of Rich's people's helped me. A lot of mine's helped him, flying around in planes. All the different things that's went involved to creating this. A boy from Florida, dreaming to win one world title, to be standing here. Somebody asked me, no, the Cowboy Hall of Fame where I was raised was for the Cowboys. We were team ropers. Whole different world. Want to thank Pro Rodeo and the Hall of Fame for having it today, and all of you for coming out here and making this day special. Thank you.
And in case you're wondering, Speed's website is speedroping.com, and his videos are just amazing and insightful. Congratulations, Speed Williams. Let's have one more big round of applause for this amazing class of 2018 and their incredible achievements in professional rodeo.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have certainly had a wonderful day here today. We want to thank each and every one of you for being here. One of the most popular exhibits here at the Hall of Fame during the summer months is the Rodeo Livestock exhibit. This year we have a bucking horse from the great Harry Vold Rodeo Company that also includes a new colt that was born May the 15th. We conducted a Name the Colt contest with the museum guests, and we received a lot of entries. How many? 507 entries in the Name the Colt. Those were then narrowed down by a panel of judges, and the top 5 names were then selected from those 500 plus. Members of our class of 2018 made the final selection, and we will now announce the name of this future great bucking horse. I call upon Kent Sturman right now to announce that name.
We're so appreciative of Harry Vold Rodeo Company and Kirsten Vold for allowing us to do this. We are so thankful to all the stock contractors who for the past 5 years have allowed us to have horses on loan from them. This is an exhibit that was here at the Hall many years ago, and it was a goal of mine to bring it back. And it's truly popular with our guests and allows us to educate the public about our equine athletes and how our animal welfare program operates. So this was the most fun we've had with a summer of horses, and I'm proud to introduce to you, and the winning name was submitted by a local Colorado Springs resident, Mr. John Nagel. But ladies and gentlemen, this is a colt that is, his father is Harry's famous Painted Valley. His mother is Beaver Tail. And now I introduce to you, Leave It to Beaver. So thank you to the class of 2018 for making this selection for us.
That's awesome. You know, we love seeing all those bucking horses, especially as foals.
Well, we have certainly had an awesome time here today, Pam. It has been fun to host with you today, and how fitting it was to induct your husband. I know you've had a great time here today as well.
It's been a great time for our family, but to all these honorees, you know, as we said before, they're great friends of ours, and we encourage everyone to visit the Hall of Fame and give to the Hall of Fame. This Hall of Fame, just like Kent said last night when we had that spectacular auction, your money goes to perpetuate the future of professional rodeo.
By the way, speaking of that auction, I think $27,600.
Yeah, what about our
were raised.
auctioneer?
Not an auctioneer. Hey, we want to thank all of our sponsors for the inductee breakfast that took place this morning. The Women's Professional Rodeo Association, also Miss Rodeo America pageant. We say thank you to them.
And a special thanks to Jeff Metters and his team at Geronimo Productions for the awesome videos that you saw today.
We invite everyone when this is over to stay and enjoy a complimentary lunch that will be served immediately following. That will be held over in the Hal the Trail World Champion Pavilion. Compliments of Benito Incorporated and the Garden of the Gods.
And inductees and families and committees, if you'll please come to the stage for more photos. We want to thank you again for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your day and see you back here next year, okay?
Thanks, everyone. Goodbye.